Right, guys, welcome to another one of our Cheltenham preview shows at Rain It in Horse Racing. We're going to today be looking at day 3 of the festival. We're joined by a friend of the show, Katie Midwinter. Katie, thanks very much for joining us in a very busy schedule for yourself.
Thanks for having me on.
No, well, I thought who better to look at 60-run handicaps with?
Yeah, we're
We've got
talking though now. It's hard at this stage before like the real entry stage as well, and obviously before declarations. There's about 60 runners still left in a few of them, and it's hard to get through them all and pick ones out, isn't it?
listen, we have faith. We have faith that you might throw a couple of nuggets to people that are
We'll
listening,
give it
so
a
don't
go.
worry. So just sort of explain also the way we're going to run it. The same way I've done with the previous ones. We'll try and stick to if we can. No more than sort of 5 minutes in for each race. Some might take longer, some might take shorter, but that's what we're going to try and aim at as much as we can. So we'll dive straight in to the first race on day 3, which is going to be the Turners. So all the odds we're going to go through are from Odds Checker, so these are all best price. A couple of these obviously won't run in the race, and we know that. Factor File is still showing at favourite 7-4, Grey Dawn 11-4, Ginny's Destiny 3-1, Facile Vega 4s, Irocco 5-1, and then it's 8-1 bar those. So, Katie, we'll jump straight in. Has anything sort of caught your eye in this race so far?
Well, I'm hoping that Facile Vega does go here instead of the Arkle, because I've been wanting him to step up in trip all season. I just don't think he has that speed now to win a 2-mile race at the top level. I think he's going to get found out if he does go there. I think some of the horses are just going to beat him for toe. But if he does step up in trip, I think we've seen before that he gets on well at the track. He's got a lot of class and ability on his day. I think often he's been unfairly criticised, but this season obviously he hasn't been at his best, and that really has shown. But if anyone can get him back to his best, then it's definitely going to be Willie Mullins. So I really hope that he does turn up here, and if he does, I'd be quite keen that he can get back to the form that we're used to seeing from him. And I just think that he's going to improve a lot for the step up to this distance. So hopefully we do see him here.
Yeah, I'm similar to you. I'm looking forward to seeing him over Fair. I think he's been crying out for it the last couple of runs now, and I think everyone's sort of now got what they've been asking for. I think Grey Dawning's been confirmed to running here as well. I think he could play a big part. I'm not a big Ginny's Destiny fan, which I know might upset a few people, but for me, I think it's probably going to be between Facile Vega if he does go here, which I think he will do, and probably Grey Dawn. And I think it's probably going to be a small field as well. Looking at, I think there'll be a lot of ones that will be pushed towards the wayside, if I'm honest with you on this one. Right, we'll jump onto the attempts. Again, this is where it starts going a bit tricky. We have, now, please forgive my pronunciation on some of these because I'm not the best in the world. I'm from Yorkshire, so we've got Gof Chi, is it Chuel? 8-1, Chantry House 17-2, Icarat Allen 9-1, Cletus Poulor 9-1, and it's 12-1 bar about 55 other horses. So I think the best way to do this one, Kate, is there any horses that you've been tracking for the race, i.e. been watching if they've been qualifying, anything that's been sort of niggling in the background in the lead up, or anything that's caught your eye since you've seen the weights come out?
Yeah, I haven't, to be honest, and that's what makes it tricky with some of these races. I think you've got to be on one from the start of the season and kind of watching them and seeing how they're getting on, seeing if they're going to get on a handy mark. But there's none of these that I've really been watching all that closely, to be honest. Like none of them have really caught my eye. Last year, it was a good race for me. I was really keen on Good Time Johnny, and he duly obliged. He went at 9-1 under Liam McKenna. But this time around, I'm finding it trickier to have such a strong opinion in it. And same as I was saying, it's hard to know that which horse is actually going to turn up in it. Because I'm almost willing to just go for Itchy Feet at 80-1 if he turns up, because I think he ran in it last year, didn't he? If the ground is soft, it's going to go against him. He's getting older as well, but I thought he was a big price if he does turn up. Towards the head of the market, I mean, Cletus Poulor has got consistent form to his name. He's been running well enough, and we know Gordon Elliott does tend to do well in the race too. So I think maybe he could have a part to play. It's kind of the obvious choice because he's the current favourite that I'm seeing. But, I think he's got strong claims. He's off a handy mark of 139 as well. So he's possibly the most interesting one. I would just give a quick mention to Ir Caroline as well, though. The step up and trip with him is quite interesting. Don't think he was fully wound up on the last day at Aintree. He's been kept fresh now for this, so he could potentially be one in there as well for Willie Mullins.
Yeah, Iker Allen was one that I'd sort of put a marker next to, and again for similar sort of reasons to yourself. There's a couple of horses in here which you just don't know if they've got to the full improvement yet. White Rhino being one of them, so he seems to be improving all the time, but has he hit a ceiling now where he's not going to go again? It is tough. It is tough, but I think there's a couple of nuggets there that you've thrown out, and at this stage, you've just kind of got to wait until the declaration to see exactly where you sit with with who's running and where they're
and you
want
to see who's going to be on board as well and that kind of thing, don't you? And what the ground's going to be like exactly. So it's quite hard at this stage to have a really strong fancy. There's a lot of variables, but yeah, there's a few that could probably run well, whatever the weather.
I think that's probably a good shout. I think anybody that's not had a bet in these sort of races yet, I think at this moment in time, there's some very good amateur jockeys and claimers from Ireland. I think that might be over this time round getting put up on a couple of these horses. So, like you say, just if you can try and find a way, if you try and get someone that's got a BHA login so you know exactly when they get put on, and then by all means jump on. Because I think sometimes it was like last season when it was Mikey O'Sullivan when he was getting his leg up on certain horses, they were getting chipped in straight away because he was the main one last year. So, no, totally agree on that one. Totally agree. Right, we'll move on to the Ryanair Chase. This one's looking a little bit more easy for us to dissect, Katie. Anyway, we've got we've got Fabiola. So Banbridge 3-1, Envoy Alain 7-2, Stage Star 9-2, Conflated 8-1, Capadano 8-1, and 10-1. Bar those. So this is probably a race that we can have a little bit of a conversation about. Where's your head at with this one at this moment in time?
I think it's a tricky race. I mean, it's easier than the Pertemps, definitely, but it's still quite hard because there's a lot of horses in here, a lot of familiar faces and familiar names. But I mean, with Banbridge, like looking towards just ahead of the market, he's quite ground dependent. If it does turn up as soft, if we have a few days of rain, I think they might be promising a few days of rain over the weekend, early next week. If that does happen, and then it does turn into quite soft ground, is Banbridge going to be at his best? Probably not. Like Envoy Alain, I think, is probably the one to beat in here because he's a great horse on his day, and this trip on softish ground does suit him. If it was to dry out, though, I'm not sure we'd see the best of him because we know he's a strong stay over further. But I think his win in it last year, he has to have full credit for that, and he's the returning champion. So he'd probably be the way that I'd be siding at the moment. But just at a bigger price, I'd maybe give a shout to Ahoy Senior because I don't think he ran his race at all at Ascot. Pic D'Orhy had an easy lead in the Ascot Chase, and Von Presse, Ahoy Senior, they kind of just sat back and let Harry Cobden do his thing on Pic D'Orhy. But I think that what's key to Ahoy Senior is being ridden from the front, especially over a shorter trip, because it's definitely shorter than his ideal. But if it was on the slightly softer side, not too testing because I don't think he likes that, but just slightly softer side, if he was able to get to the front, get into a good rhythm, I think he could use his stamina to good effect as long as he jumps well. That is the issue with him because he can be quite erratic, can't he? But I just think he could maybe be the one in there at a nice each way price that could maybe be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I'm a bit like you. I think if it was fresh ground, I think Banbridge is definitely the one to beat by a country mile. He's probably the classiest horse in the race, alongside maybe Envoy Alain. In behind that, I mean, there's a couple that you look at and you think, well, like for example, Phil Daw, Protector Rat. There's some names in there that we've all seen many times and have been around Cheltenham quite a few times themselves as well. But what I thought was interesting was there was quite a good piece today on GA Law where they seemed quite bullish about him and said that he's worked really well. I'm assuming he's probably going to turn up here, I think, by the sounds of it, and that's what they are going for. Paige Fuller from Race IQ sent us over a full deck as well, all the information on the Ryanair and all the other races, which thank you very much for that. And I was having a read through, and it's interesting to see just how many lengths GA Law actually makes up on his jumping. His jumping is such a big weapon in his armour. And as we're speaking then, because you've got a couple in here that do throw up every now and then some bad jumps, if he can just get into a rhythm himself where he's just jumping and getting out there and enjoying himself, I don't think he's the best horse in the race, but I think a clear round and a good jumping round could maybe see him hit the frame. So I'm probably not going to stick my head out and say he's going to win, but I think at the minute at 16-1, I think he might not be a bad each way playing this, I don't think, considering that there is so much coming in on some of the others, or some of them can throw bad jumping. He seems to be pretty consistent, to be fair, so he's probably one that I might look at as a bit of an each way play. So onto the Stayers hurdle now. So we've got Tiupu, 9-4 favourite, Irish Point 4-1, which is probably going to go to the champion hurdle. Crambo 11-2, Noble Yates 9-1, Sir Gerhard at 10s, and then it's 12-1, bar those. Do you know, sometimes the more and more I look at some of the names, it's like a veteran Stayers hurdle, isn't it? Some of these have been around for absolutely years. Like some of the ones in the betting towards the back, and like say you've got here, you've got like Syed Burley, Dashel Drasher, Champ still kicking round. You know what I mean? It's just full of old names, isn't it? But we had another guest on a couple of weeks back now, and they were saying that they'd had a chat with somebody involved with Gordon's, and they were pretty convinced that Tiupu was going to be the one to beat in this race. They'd be quite disappointed if they weren't towards the front of the winners enclosed towards the back end. I tend to agree. I think if it comes up soft, I think he will take all the beating. Are you sort of that similar opinion, or have you got something else in mind that you think might spoil the party?
I suppose on form, then Tiupu is kind of a worthy favourite because he's got the form in the book. He was very good last time he beat Imperial Pass. He's been kept fresh for this race, and from what you're saying, they clearly expect a big performance from him. But for me, I've backed him so many times in the past when he's been disappointing. Like I remember backing him for the champion hurdle. I think must have been 2 years ago now, because I was a big fan of him back then. And then last year I stuck with him as well. I thought he was just the banker of the day, really, and he couldn't do it, and he got desired conditions because it poured with rain all day Wednesday, all day Thursday. It was soft testing ground, and he only had to beat Syed Burley and Dashel Drasher, and I felt like he should have beaten them, and he couldn't. So that's kind of stuck in my mind with him, and I'm just a little bit cautious now of going all in on him again at the same price, what he is currently 9-4, which he went off at last year. Even if it does turn up as soft again, I kind of have the feeling that this is maybe a stronger renewal than it was last year. Although a couple of these are, they're getting on a bit now. They are older, but you could make the point that maybe Tiupu's improved from last year. But I just have it in my mind that I'm not sure I want to be going all in on him at such a short price when he's kind of disappointed in the past when I felt like he should have won. That's the only doubt I have with him, to be honest, and that's why it's making me look at something at a bigger price and maybe trying to go for one each way. So if Tiupu does win and gets his day in the sun, then fair play to him, but maybe go for one at more of a value price in my head. Sir Gerhard, I backed him at 33-1 anti-post before he won the last time. So I'm quite happy with that bet, and I'm hoping he can run a big race. But I'm just not sure whether this tests his stamina a little bit, because he's a horse that kind of wants that intermediate trip, I think. 2 miles a little bit short for him, 3 miles maybe testing him a bit. But it's hard. You don't know where to place him then. And he's not a chaser at all, is he? So it has to stay over hurdles with him to be seen to his best. So I'm hoping that he'll run a big race at least. But, I keep going back to Paisley Park, and I think his price is way too big for a horse that was, I think he was getting up on the line in the Cleve hurdle, and he was giving weight away to Noble Yates as well. But I thought he was closing all the time. Now, he tends to get outpaced, doesn't he? Like with a few furlongs to run, and then he keeps running on and staying on all the way towards the line. And he's been so unlucky 3 times this season, but I think he's been running well. He's shown that the ability is still there. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 too good for him. I think like 20-1 or 18-1, I think it's too big a price. So he'd probably be the play I'd have at this moment each way, because I kind of feel it might be written in the stars for him, his fairy tale ending. So I'm kind of thinking with Paisley Park at the moment might be the way I'll play it.
Yeah, there is a lot of guessing game to it, and I totally understand what you're saying. I think it was, I think everyone said the last time Tupa got beat, that was the time for it to win. Everything, the stars are completely aligned, and that was its optimum conditions, job lot to win. So I understand why you'd be cautious on that. I think Sir Gerhard's not a bad shout. I remember him winning at the festival in I think it was the Ballymore, wasn't it, when it was absolutely soddened with rain. It was so
It was
heavy.
awful all day long.
It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And to be fair, he stayed on well that day. So
Yeah.
hopefully you can see him back to his best. He likes Cheltenham. I like saying he won the bumper there, didn't he? And obviously he won the Ballymore as well. So yeah, I think 10-1 is reasonable. I just want to give a shout to Florian Porter coming back over hurdles as well. I don't think he did that much wrong over fences, if I'm honest with you. I just think he were at the time when he finished third, and there's that loose horse one that's just putting him off all the way around. And we all know he doesn't need much distraction before he starts to lose his train of thought. So I actually thought he did quite well that day. But to drop him back over hurdles, I think in a race like this, I'm assuming probably Danny Mullins will get the nod again on him. I hope he does anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets. I think he's currently about 12-1 at this moment in time as well. But yeah, interesting race and a competitive race as well, which is what I want to see. Right, on to one that you'll probably no doubt love again, Katie, the plate. Plenty in here as well to look at. Crebilli at 4-1 favourite, Theatre Man 6-1, Firm Footings 8-1. Let's be clear about it, 10s, and it's 14-1 by those because I believe that Madara, who's currently at 12s, is being aimed at the Grand Annual. So again, probably adopt the same policy with the Potemps. Is there anything here that's caught the eye that you've maybe been looking at in terms of where it's going to be going or what it's looking at or anything like that? Because I appreciate the art difficult at this time to try and pick out anything.
I think Crebilli looks quite well handicapped off 140 because he's got some good form in the book. I think he was going to win his race at Cheltenham when he fell in the race run by Ginny's Destiny. There were a couple of furlongs to go that day, so maybe Ginny's Destiny would still have got up in the end. But I remember being on Crebilli that day and I really fancied him. I thought he was travelling strongly at the time he came down as well. So if you put it in context that he's off 140 now, Ginny's Destiny is rated, let me see, 155. No, Crebilli, I think, has got, he's on a good mark off 140. And then last time as well with Tamoras, Tamoras has franked the form really by finishing a good second in the Pendle at Kempton behind Blow Your Wad. So I think 140 is probably lenient enough for Crebilli. I can see why he's favourite, but looking at the race, it's 4-1, 100-30 in places. That's just a bit short for me in a race as big as this. Now I'd probably be waiting until final decks to make a solid decision on which horse I'd back in the race because I don't have an anti-post bet in it. But just looking down, I picked out Sharjah, who I'm pretty sure is going for the Arkle or Turners. But he's a shorter price here, probably because he doesn't have that much of a chance in Arkle or Turners. But I'm still be quite interested to see if he holds up at the entry stage. Because I think he could be off a handy enough mark, and he's a classy horse on his day. He hasn't done much wrong over fences, just been beaten by some better horses. If he did turn up here, I think I'd be quite interested in him, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think the Crebilli for me, I was like you. I think it's ridiculously lenient. I think to only get put up £1 for the tomorrow's win, I think has been very lenient. If I'm honest with you, I was looking, thinking, well, can I find something else that's maybe towards the top end? But do you know what? I just think no. I think ultimately the race will probably cut up a little bit. There'll still be a big field because it's the plate, but I can see Crebilli going off pretty short. I reckon it might even go up maybe 3s, 5-2. I think there'll be a little bit more support around it because I just think he's that well handicapped.
Yeah. If you think that, then I suppose the 4-1 is a bit of value. Then, if you think he's going to go off shorter.
I think he will. I think the main reason being is because I think when you like we've just done there, when you actually break down the form, I mean, it's madness really how he's only gone up a pound. It just don't, it's crackers really, and
Yeah.
like you say, then you've got the Ginny's Destiny form as well that's built into it. I think is a very good bet. He'd probably be my bet of the day. I think here, just on the basis of how well his handicaps. Don't get me wrong, all can happen in the play when you've got a big field handicap, but for me, I think at 40, I think he's still a decent price. Right, we'll move on to the Mares Novice Hurdle, which I think, if we're being brutally honest with you, probably revolves around three horses. Brighter Days Ahead is currently 13 to 8, and everyone's been very bullish about her. Sorry, Jada Grugier is 94, and Dissect Minos is 92, and it's 12 to 1 bar those three. I'm assuming we will just focus on those three, unless anything pops up, obviously, that you've seen, Katie.
Yeah.
But I think it is surrounding around these three, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's hard to find one at a bigger price in here. I was looking through them and I'm struggling really to find one that I'd even be
I don't think there's
interested in
anything.
each way. No, not really. It looks like it's going to be those three battling it out. So I'm quite struggling to form a strong opinion on any of them. I think but all three of them are really talented, and they're all quite unexposed still as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see which one does come out on top. But all the vibes with Brighter Days Ahead are really good, aren't they? And I was there the last day when she went at Nam and she beat Pastoral by 12 lengths. Now, Pastoral is a mare that's improving all of the time. But I thought she ran a really good race to finish second. She made a mistake at the last, but she stayed on strongly. But Brighter Days Ahead won cosily enough, and she looks really special. And the way they're speaking about her, I think it's easy to get drawn into her camp here, and kind of being on her side. But it's that drop back in trip for me it's going to be an interesting factor, especially if the ground is going to dry out a bit. We don't know at the moment what it's going to be like, but I just wonder, if it was to dry out a bit, that drop back in trip, is she going to get beaten for toe by maybe Jada Grugi, Dysat Enos? I just don't know. I think it's a tough one, and maybe the more I look at it, I'll form a stronger opinion. But I think all three of them are really talented. I'm finding it hard to split them, to be honest.
No, I agree. And when I went to visit Gordon Yard, what would it be now, over a year ago, I knew how sweet they were on Brighter Days Ahead. It's always been in held high regard. Now,
Yeah.
I'm very similar to you. I've got Brighter Days Ahead at a decent anti-post price. However, I think the only way she gets beat is if the dropping trip just doesn't suit. I do think Jada Grugier and Desert Enos might be speedier horses. So I think how the race is run will be a big factor in the finish to this race as well, because I mean, Cider Grugier has been obviously well touted, but probably not half as much as what Brighter Days Ahead has been. Now, Jada Grugier could be just as good, if not better, in this type of race. I do think Brighter Days Ahead is the best horse in the race, and I think will have the best career out of all these horses going forward. But I'm like you, I'm just not too sure if that dropping trip might just bring the other two into play a little bit. I do think there's a reason why Desert Enos has been kept away from winning races, though. I either try to get a little bit of a pull at the weights out there, I think, to try and give himself half a chance, which is understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the thing though, it's the unknown with her, because she was really good in the bumpers last year, beat Queen's Gamble and then won that grade 2 at Aintree. But this season we just haven't seen her in graded company. So it's just that bit of unknown, but she is getting the weight from the other two, which is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's probably reasons to why Fergal Brown wants to try and keep that little bit of pull. I think in terms of the weights, I think the other two probably might be just. I think the market's probably right, but I think 13 to 8 is short enough now. If you haven't already had a bet on her, I don't think I'd be rushing to go put a bet on at 13 to 8. That is for certain. But definitely those three. Maybe a combination TriCast, maybe. Because I can't see any other horses coming into play anyway. Let's put it that way.
No, it's a hard
Right,
one.
we'll finish up.
I was looking, I'll tell you though, a big one at 100 to 1.
Oh, come
If
on.
she
Go
ran,
on.
I don't think she's going to run here. I'd be really surprised. But I've been looking out for this mare for the last year or so, and I hadn't seen anywhere. It's Rosie Redrum. She had a really bad fall at Newbury, November 22, and she hadn't been seen then until last month. I was wondering what happened to her, and she was back out. Ground was a bit heavy for her that day, but she finished a decent third. I just wonder if she was to turn up here, because it doesn't look the strongest renewal. Maybe she could nick a 4th place or 5th place, something like that. Don't know if she'll run, but if she does, one to note.
I like that. I like a big 100-1 thrown in there. Why not? Why not? To be fair, there was one that I'd looked at and I thought I'm not going to say it, but now you said it, I might say mine, because there was one horse
Go
I
on.
looked at and it was absolutely, it was a ridiculous price. It was 50-1. It was Molly's Mango, and I don't know if it's going to run or not in here. It's Harry Durham.
Yeah,
It's his
just bought
horse.
her, hasn't he?
It's what,
Just
sorry?
bought her from Gordon. Just bought her from
That's it.
Gordon's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, it's just come over now. It's obviously in the race. Whether it'll run or not, again, I'm not too sure. I just thought it was a really interesting buy, bit of an interesting purchase, and obviously to stay in this race as well. I thought maybe it's one of those where they might just chuck her in and see how she gets on. But I thought 50-1 again. I thought if you can try and get 4th or 5, I don't know, paying 4 or 5 places, it might be worth just sticking on for a bit. Because I mean, Harry Durham as well is in a great bit of form himself. He's having a good season, wasn't
yeah.
he? So that was mine anyway. So you've chucked a silly one, and I've chucked a silly one in as well. So that's fine. I don't feel as bad now.
Might not be silly next Thursday night.
What, when they both come in? 1, 2, 1, 2.
No. 1, 2, yeah, we'll do the forecast.
Right, and to finish off with, so it's the Kimya to finish off with. So you've got I Know the Way You're Thinking, 7-2, Cool Survivor 8s, Meeting of the Waters, which I'm assuming will be going for the Ultima, 8-1, Good Time Johnny, 17-2, and it's 10-1, bar those. Right, Katie, Kimya, give us a big winner to finish off with.
Another easy race.
Of course.
It looks like I Know the Way You're Thinking is quite fancied for this race, doesn't it? It's carrying 12 stone though. I'm just always inclined to look at a bigger price, something at an each way price. I don't know if that's a bad thing to do here, because he's got some decent form behind some good horses, So I think you definitely have to respect him at the top of the market in those colours. Gavin Cromwell knows how to get winners at Cheltenham as well. So I think he's definitely one to respect here. Good Time Johnny in there as well. A big fan of this horse. Did well for me last year in the Potemps. Could easily go well again. Who knows?
There was a big buzz about this horse at the DRF. I don't know why everyone seems to be talking about Good Time Johnny again for this year. There were about 3 or 4 people that bumped into. And I know Bo's keen as well, that normally does our podcast with us as well. So it might, I imagine there might be a little bit of a mini gamble on him at some point. I think once he gets definitely declared for the race. I think everyone might be on again from last season, using some of the winnings.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised. And he's off the same mark as well as he won the Potemps. Obviously, this is a different race to that, but he is off the same mark, which is interesting. They kept it low for him. I think Good Time Johnny, on the day, I probably would go for him, because I really like him from last year. I think he's a good horse on his day, and we haven't seen him to his best this season. I think that's for sure. I will mention Am I Right as well, though. I'm hoping that he'll go for the Ultima, because I quite like him for that. But he's a similar price here, so he could easily turn up here instead. And he would probably be my main fancy if he did head here instead. But the key to him is drying ground, so he needs better ground to be seen to his best. So just have to wait and see what the weather forecast is and where he does turn up. I think if it's going to be softer, he's going to skip Cheltenham altogether. I think that's what I read from Henry de Bromhead comments recently. But yeah, if he's declared, then Am I Right would be my each way play.
The only one that I've seen that sort of stuck out to me in this race is Daily Present for Paul Nolan. I do like the Irish lower end trainers in these type of races. I think sometimes they always try and find a spot for some of the horses this time. I think he might have got it. I think it's gone up £7. I think from its last race when it won. Finished about four fences behind Gaelic Warrior, about 100-1, and then it came out and won next time out. It just when you're looking at some horses, you look at some of the form, and you just think this just looks like it's a handicap job. and they're just trying to look after something to try and get it to a particular mark. That's when I was looking at Daily Present. That's how it sort of came across to me. Like I say, he hasn't run since January, so he's been kept fresh for the race, and I think he's 16-1 currently. So I think if he runs, that'd probably be my play. But again, I know the way you're thinking. Probably a worthy favourite, and it's the usual colours that like to win the festival handicaps, isn't it? In the gold, green, and gold. So we shall see. But again, just to let people know, definitely wait for the jockey bookings on some of these as well, because I would imagine that'll play a key part, because there'll be claimers here, there, and everywhere in some of these races. So just keep an eye out for those. Right, before you go, Katie, just give us your best bet for the day then on day 3 as things stand now. You had a £50 free bet. Where's it going to go?
I'd probably be going for Fossil Vega in the Turners. I just think that step up in trip is going to do wonders to him. I think we know he's been below par his last 2 races. That isn't him at all. I think Willie Mullins can get back to his best, so I'd be hoping that it'd be Fossil Vega could win.
And I'll stick with what I said. I think Krabilly is extremely well handicapped for the plate, and I think we'll definitely go there with him. So I think I'll be happy to take 4-1. I know he's under the 13 place at the minute, but I think that 4-1 might quickly go. So right, well, we'll leave it there, Katie. Well, thank you very much for coming on and looking at day 3. I know it's obviously some of the handicaps are difficult to find, so I appreciate your time to come in on. When are you down there next week?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, I can't wait for it. Be good.
All week?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Braver than me.
Are you going?
I think. Yeah, probably more than likely Tuesday, Wednesday, and then reassess, see where we're at, and we'll go from there.
Hopefully, have some winners to start the week off well, and then all downhill from there.
Well, normally in Tuesday, Wednesday, normally been quite lucky days for me generally, but this season I just don't feel like I'm in a good position in terms of anti-post this year compared to other years. I think it's been a bit of a minefield. I don't think some of the prices have been very friendly. So it's been difficult, I think, to try and get a decent book. I mean, I'm not someone that normally puts together loads of horses anyway. I normally try and get like one per race if I possibly can for when I'm down there, so Tuesday, Wednesday. But this year I've struggled. Like I said, I'm sat on a couple of half decent bets, so we'll see if they come in. But what's your best anti-post bet, Nate, that you've got this at the moment?
Well, on the Thursday, I was saying I've got Segir had at 33-1 for the Stayers Hurdle, so I'm hoping that he'll run a big race. I'm keen though on the first race of the festival and the Supreme, Mystical Power. I've got him at 25-1, so I'm glad that Ballyburn's going for the Gallagher now, confirmed. Well, unless there's a change in mind again, yeah, we'll see. We'll see Sunday morning, but I'm glad he's going there. I think that'll suit him more, but also open it up for Mystical Power in the Supreme. I think he could run a big race.